It's like a well-balanced meal.
Yeah.
It has to have
Flavors of everything.
yes, flavors of everything, and it also has to have like elements of everything.
Yeah. Finding that right balance that
Yes.
works for you, that works for your financial goals and needs. I think that's what asset allocation really means to me.
I've met so many of them who's like, oh, where do you invest? Oh, 100% in private equity, 100% in crypto.
Cryptos.
And I'm like, but one second, do you understand what crypto means? Do you understand the technology behind the token that you're investing in? They're like, no, it's a little complex, but I know that it's gonna double, triple, quadruple in the next 6 months. How do you know? Hi, I'm Sayali.
Hi, I'm Niyati.
Welcome to the Finance Happy Hour with FinCocktail.
Today we're going to talk about what it actually means to build a portfolio. You know, so many people use the term asset allocation and we get so overwhelmed when you hear that, right? You know, it's something that sounds complicated, complex.
Big word.
Big word.
Asset allocation.
Yeah, and jargony, right?
Very.
So if you were to simplify the term asset allocation for a layman, for somebody who doesn't know what investing even is,
Okay.
how would you do that?
Okay, so funnily enough, a couple of friends are in town and we're going to this place which serves this elaborate 5-course meal. So I was just thinking about it and I'm like, that's what asset allocation is kind of like. It's not they're coming from so far. I'm not just going to be like, अच्छा ये 2 starter खाओ और निकलो यहाँ से, right? It's going to be like the starters, the main course, the dessert, and some coffee at the end, etc. So I think it's like that, right? It's like a well-balanced meal.
Yeah.
It has to have
Flavors of everything.
yes, flavors of everything, and it also has to have like elements of everything.
Yeah.
Again, when you look at like having a proper diet, for example, you have to have protein, you have to have carbs, you have to have fat, you have to have fiber, you have to have all of these like vitamins, minerals, all of these things, right?
Correct.
Only then will you call it a good, balanced diet. So just like that, I think asset allocation is a well-balanced portfolio where you have where you allocate assets, where you allocate your portfolio, your money to all the different types of asset classes that are available to you as an investor. So I think like it'll look like a nice plate with like different all different food groups, I guess.
Nice. Yeah, I love this analogy. I think it simplifies it to the core. I think asset allocation is really about finding that right balance, which works for you. It's something that is very, very personal.
Yeah.
Because what may work for you may not work for me.
100%.
Maybe out of the 5-course meal that you're taking your friends for, your friends might not enjoy 1 or 2 courses.
Correct.
Everything is not for everybody.
100%.
You don't need to have all the assets in your portfolio for it to be a well-balanced or a well-diversified portfolio. Sometimes it can lead to over-diversification. Finding that right balance that works for you, that works for your financial goals and needs. I think that's what asset allocation really means to me.
100%, and very rightly said. Like certain things in certain proportions may work for certain people, but not necessarily for everyone.
Absolutely. Like for example, if I were to just talk about private equity investing, which has become a big thing these days. Everyone's talking about it. Everyone wants to sort of invest in unlisted equity. It's become the new thing that Gen Z wants to sort of have as a part of their portfolios. But honestly, I think that it is such a risky asset class. It is so risky. It requires so much research. It requires in-depth study of financials which may or may not be available to you. I think that private equity investing is something that you can only do when you've built your portfolio, when you've already
on top
done
of that.
Yeah, when you've already done when you've already set a strong base for your portfolio,
then you can
have this as an ancillary.
Correct.
Or as a satellite portfolio, where you allocate a small proportion of your money to this. But it can't be where you start your investing journey.
It's funny, right? Like so many of these new investors, these new age investors in the last couple of years, I've met so many of them who's like, oh, where do you invest? Oh, 100% in private equity, 100% in crypto.
Cryptos.
And I'm like, but one second, do you understand what crypto means? Do you understand the technology behind the token that you're investing in? They're like, no, it's a little complex, but I know that, it's gonna like, double, triple, quadruple in the next 6 months. I said, how do you know?
Yeah.
Who has told you this?
And look at what has happened. It's not. It did probably double, triple, quadruple,
but it also crashed.
It also crashed.
Yeah.
So having these risky asset classes as a part of your portfolio may make sense.
Keyword is part.
But exactly. The keyword is to limit yourself to only a small percentage.
Correct.
Correct.
It depends on your small percentage, can be 5% also, it can be 10% also.
Correct.
But that depends on the level of risk you are willing and able to take.
Absolutely.
Because a lot of people forget that risk is not just it's not just a parameter that you sort of, try to define or try to gauge an investment by. It's also your ability to take it.
Yeah.
Like if you have EMIs, if you have aging parents as responsibilities, if you have a family, young children to take care of, you can't take that risk with your money.
Absolutely.
You need to have money around to provide for your family.
In safer asset classes.
Exactly. And if you are single, if you're making a lot of money, if you're living alone, and if you really have that kind of money to blow away, sure, go for it. But that's also going to change. You're not going to be this
you're not going to have no responsibilities for the rest of your life.
Exactly.
Right? At some point you will.
कुछ नहीं तो your own retirement का responsibility तो will come only on your head.
Correct. Absolutely. So I think that the way to go about with asset allocation is to first build that strong base.
Correct.
And to build that strong base, I think you require just your plain simple vanilla asset classes like equity and debt and gold and FDs. And once you've got that sorted, then you can look at these fancy new things that you probably want to add as a part of your portfolio, like cryptos or private equity or REITs or whatever else that people talk about these days.
I agree, and they've become more of like a tagline or a hook that oh my god, you can invest. I mean, we are also guilty of using some of these hooks to sort of talk about what we want to talk about. But I think it's also important to notice that under that hook, what we're explaining is a concept.
Yeah.
Now, if you want to invest your money, it's your hard-earned money at the end of it.
Yeah.
If you want to invest that hard-earned money in that particular concept, you need to make sure that you, like you said, have a base first. So, a lot of times I get asked this question: how do you pick? अच्छा चलो vanilla assets का base बनाना है. So how do you start? Where do you start from?
Right. So I think this is where I like the 100 minus your age thumb rule, This is a thumb rule which obviously it's just a yardstick. It's not something that may be applicable to the T for everyone. But you can at least start off by using this yardstick to build your portfolio. And this essentially means that you subtract your age from the number 100. And then whatever number you're left with, that number gets invested into equities. And the balance get invested into other asset classes, which we include like more conservative ones like debt.
Got it.
Right? So if I am, for example, I'm 30, 100 minus 30 means 70. So I can invest 70% of my portfolio into equities. But if I am 50 years of age, then 100 minus 50 is 50. So I can only invest 50% of my portfolio in equities.
Okay.
What this essentially does, that it takes care of your risk-taking ability at different ages.
Yeah.
When you're younger, you're able to take far more risk.
Yeah. You have lesser responsibilities.
You have lesser responsibilities. So you can take that risk, and when you're younger, you can invest a larger percentage of your portfolio in equities, which will grow at a faster rate.
Correct.
Which will give your portfolio that boost. When you start nearing retirement, that's when you have to be more conservative.
Yeah.
That's when you need to change your asset allocation to move from equity to a little bit more conservative assets like debt, which will then take care of your retirement purpose, So I think this is a great yardstick to look at when you're just beginning your investment journey and you don't know what proportion to sort of put your money in different equity or debt asset classes.
Again, important term is yardstick.
Yeah.
It's just a baseline. It should at least be this much.
Absolutely.
And after that, over and above, if you can take more risk, then of course add in more equity. If you don't want to take that much risk, reduce your risky assets. It's a great sort of, beginning line.
Starting point.
But my favorite out of all the thumb rules, you know this one, is the 90-10.
Yeah.
I love the 90-10.
Yeah.
So for those who don't know this, it's 90% in vanilla assets and 10% go crazy.
Yeah, that's...
So that's when if you want to invest in cryptos and private equity, etc., etc. Again, if you are able to take risk with that 10%, you can go crazy, but limit it up to 10% because it's too much otherwise. Otherwise, it becomes too much and then it starts affecting your base portfolio as well.
Correct.
So yeah, these two are great thumb rules to sort of, help you begin building that portfolio.
Now, all these people now keep talking about different asset classes. But what? Like, what does it really mean? Why? I mean, I know, you know, but like for somebody who is just learning about, portfolio building and asset allocation, what do different asset classes really mean? What are they?
So, whenever you are starting to build your portfolio, you have to remember that asset class is just a fancy name of different types of investments available to you as an investor, as a retail investor. Now, me as a person can invest in multiple things, right? Now, again, we have only divided them into two, which is vanilla and like go crazy investments. So, let's talk about those. Your vanilla investments are your equity, debt, which is stocks. You can invest directly in stocks. You can buy bonds, government, corporate, etc. And you can invest through mutual funds. They invest in equity and debt both. Then you have FDs, you have your PPF, you have your NPS, you have gold, different types of investments in gold. So those make the vanilla assets. And you have your go crazy investments, which obviously the most talked about, not so much right now, but a couple of years ago, crypto. Investing in cryptocurrencies, investing in REITs, investing in, I forgot one very big one in vanilla, which is real estate.
I was going to add that.
Yes.
Because traditionally Indians love their real estate and
घर
everyone,
घर
तो होना चाहिए.
सर पे छत नहीं होगी तो कहाँ जाएंगे? It's an emotion.
Real estate is a very, very huge investment asset class, especially for Indians.
Yeah, that I agree. That, yes, of course, comes under vanilla.
Yeah.
The go crazy ones include private equity, cryptocurrencies, REITs, and any like alternative investments nowadays that have come around.
Yeah.
Like there's lease financing and multiple
absolutely
types of investments which are
like invoice discounting, lease financing, all these.
Lots of new things that are coming up.
P2P lending.
Yes, peer-to-peer lending is also a new one, and I think some of them may give you those supernormal extra returns. Some of them, like P2P lending, are competing with products like debt, but they would still be in your go crazy investments, I believe, because it's still new. You still have to understand the company before you get into
you need to do a little bit more research.
Yes. It's still riskier.
FD लेने में कुछ research नहीं करना है. But if you're trying to sort of get 1-2% over the FD returns by investing in a P2P lending platform,
then you have to
have to do your research.
Yeah, correct. You have to understand the risks involved.
Absolutely.
But I had a question. Okay, this is personally me asking, because this is what sometimes I struggle with. Rebalancing. Okay, so nobody talks about this a lot because I don't know why, but we know that we have spoken about the fact that you have to rebalance your portfolio time and again.
Yeah.
Two questions: how do you rebalance, and how often do you rebalance?
So rebalancing essentially typically means that you need to revisit your original asset allocation and see where you are at as compared to that. So you could have started as a 60% equity, 40% debt portfolio. Okay, but because this was a fabulous year for equities, your equities could have moved up to 65%.
Got it.
And your debt would have therefore become 35%. At the end of the year, or at some point, you need to reevaluate. You need to figure out for yourself, am I okay with having more riskier asset classes like equity be a part of my portfolio, 65% of my portfolio, or do I want to now sort of trim it, trim my exposure to equity? Now, what do I mean when I say trim my exposure? It essentially means reducing the amount of equity allocation that you have in your portfolio by selling the asset. Okay?
And then consequently
buying the debt asset.
Correct.
Right? So that's what rebalancing really means. Revisiting your original asset allocation and then trimming your portfolio to meet that.
Correct.
How often should you be doing it?
Which is what I truly struggle with. How often?
Now this is very, very subjective, Some people would want to do this as often as every year. Okay? Some people are okay to sort of just evaluate where their asset allocation is at and then take a call dynamically. Am I okay with this asset allocation at this point in time? ठीक है तो रहने देते हैं.
हाँ, correct.
Correct. It essentially means that. But evaluating or evaluating your portfolio is key. Trimming the exposure or not trimming the exposure, that's really up to you. But at least finding out whether my exposure to equities has increased or decreased over the past 1 year. I think every year everyone should be doing this activity just to find out where they're at, how the past year has been.
And then maybe you can draw a line later, like मतलब if 65 हो गया तो ठीक है, 70 के ऊपर नहीं हो सकता ऐसा.
Correct.
Something like that.
Yeah. So this is something which you have to work on an ongoing basis with either your financial advisor, or if you're doing this yourself, then you have to set limits for yourself. It's not something that is set in stone. कि every year मेरे को trim करना ही है.
Yeah. So I'll tell you why I struggle with this. Because I always tend to yes, I look at it every year, but I tend to leave it be, even though I somewhere want to trim it.
Yeah.
Because of the tax implication. I just don't feel like paying the tax on if you whenever you redeem your equity investments.
Yeah.
My heart breaks. This long-term investing situation.
Yeah.
My heart breaks in paying that kind of tax or any exit load, which, if at all, it is applicable. But I try to do it for investments which are beyond a year invested.
You use the FIFO method.
Correct.
Where you're selling what you first bought. So unfortunately, there's no way to avoid this tax implication, because as soon as you sell, whether it's an equity asset or a debt asset, short-term or long-term gains,
government be like, hi, I'm here.
Short-term or long-term capital gains come into the picture, and according to what you've sold, you need to pay those taxes. This is something that you can't really evade, but what you can keep in mind, like you said, is that keep in mind the exit loads. Try and redeem from assets that have already crossed the exit load period, or that are long-term assets as compared to shorter-term assets. Try and sell something that you've bought earlier, like the FIFO method, first in, first out. So you have to sort of study your portfolio at length, which is why it always makes sense, I think, somewhere down the line, when your portfolio has reached a certain size, it makes sense to have a financial advisor. Because this is something that, everybody might not want to spend the time and effort doing.
Correct.
This is our job, so we take it seriously and we are going to look at our portfolio on a daily basis. But if you're somebody who's a working professional who has another full-time job, you don't really have the time to reevaluate your portfolio all the time. And then even if you reevaluate it, you probably don't know what to do then.
Correct.
You don't know, should I trim, should I not trim? How much tax will I have to pay?
Yeah.
Will I have to pay an exit load or not? These are questions that may baffle you from time to time.
Correct. I agree. And I think it's this is where unfortunately we have to agree that no matter how much we try simplifying finance, there are some things which get complicated, that get complex, because it's your entire, when it comes to your entire portfolio, yes, it can get complex. Get help when you can.
Yeah, and only when you reach a certain
Yes.
considerable size.
Yes.
Where it's okay to part with a certain percentage fee that you're paying your advisor.
Correct.
You know, I think that's a sort of
good benchmark.
Good benchmark. You know, you don't have to do it when you've just started out.
Yeah.
You know, you probably.
So that should be the aim, na? Ki mujhe kabhi, like one day I will have a financial advisor who will handle my massive amounts of portfolio, massive amounts of money.
Absolutely. That makes sense. Great. So I think that's it on asset allocation from us. It doesn't have to be as complicated as people make it sound. It's very simple. It's just about having different flavors of assets in your portfolio and seeing what works best for you.
So we're going to talk about one of our favorite vanilla assets, the shiny, the sparkling gold. We're going to talk about how you can invest in gold and if it's right for you. That's going to be on our next episode. So stay tuned.